Hello and welcome to Zip News. Two former leaders of the Khmer Rouge have been found guilty of crimes against humanity in a United Nations-backed court in Cambodia. 88-year-old Nguyen Chia, the regime's chief ideologist, and Khieu Samphan, the 83-year-old former head of state, were both found guilty of extermination and political persecution for their role in the Cambodian genocide. Led by Pol Pot, the communist Khmer Rouge killed up to 2 million people through starvation, overwork and execution in the late 1980s. Both men were sentenced to life in prison. The Michigan community is in shock after a 9-year-old boy was stabbed to death at a playground this week. Michael Conover Kirk had only just met 12-year-old Jamarian Lawhorn when his attacker pulled out a knife and repeatedly stabbed him. Lawhorn then walked to a nearby house to use the phone, where he called 911 to confess and asked that officers come and kill him as he wanted to end his life. Lawhorn has been charged as an adult with murder and entered a not guilty plea, though many expect the 12-year-old to revert to an insanity plea. Hawaii suffered a 4.5 magnitude earthquake during preparations for their first direct hurricane since 1992. The quake didn't cause much damage, but the twin hurricanes are expected to wreak havoc across the archipelago, with Hurricane Isel the first to hit before Hurricane Julio passes through. Due to the geography of the islands, both storms are expected to weaken significantly on arrival, though residents are still being told to prepare but not panic. Hawaii has only been directly hit by hurricanes 3 times since 1950 and never before by 2 storms in a row. Negotiators in Cairo were working overtime on Thursday in an attempt to extend the 72-hour ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. The truce has been observed by both sides so far and is due to finish on Friday, but the negotiators are seeking a long-term pause in hostilities. Israel has said that though the talks were serious, they would resume operations if Hamas restarted its rocket fire. The clashes have so far killed 1,875 Palestinians and 67 Israelis, and at one point had displaced 280,000 people. Saudi Arabia has joined the list of countries with suspected Ebola deaths after a businessman was reportedly felled by the disease after a trip to Sierra Leone. Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf has declared a national state of emergency for 90 days after the World Health Organization announced 932 people have now been killed in the biggest and most complex Ebola outbreak in history. In addition to Saudi Arabia, Sierra Leone and Liberia, Guinea and now Nigeria have reported deaths in their country. The ongoing trial of the Blade Runner Oscar Pistorius is almost at an end, with prosecutor Jerry Nell making his closing argument. Known as the Bulldog or Pitbull prosecutor for his aggressive tenacity in the courtroom, Nell urged Judge Masipa to find the Blade Runner guilty of murdering his girlfriend Reva Steenkamp. The 27-year-old's defence lawyer Barry Rue is expected to make his closing statement on Friday before the judge adjourns the trial to consider her verdict. If found guilty, Pistorius could face up to life imprisonment. The death toll from a 6.1 magnitude Chinese earthquake has reached 589, with 9 people still unaccounted for. In addition to the deaths, 2,401 people were injured in one of the deadliest quakes to hit the mountainous southern region of Yunnan. Poor weather and numerous aftershocks hampered initial recovery efforts, and Beijing has allocated nearly $100 million towards providing relief for survivors. Poor quality housing, a high population density and shallow epicentre to the earthquake are said to be the contributing factors to the high death toll. There's been a mass exodus from Karakosh as ISIS seizes control of the Iraqi city. Home of the country's biggest Christian population, the town 20 miles southeast of Mosul was taken by the Islamic militant group, forcing thousands to flee for their lives and stranding them in the surrounding mountains. The Islamic State have continued their march from Mosul, with 3 other nearby villages also attacked during the siege. France has called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council to discuss the threat in Iraq. Russia has attempted to hit back at the countries that have imposed sanctions on it by banning food imports. In a tit-for-tat move, Vladimir Putin will not allow a number of Western agricultural products and raw materials into the country for up to a year. Countries affected by the import ban include all members of the European Union excluding Switzerland, the United States, Canada and Australia, all of which have imposed sanctions on the Kremlin. Fearing the decision could raise food prices for Russian consumers, Putin has also instructed government officials to come up with measures to combat any cost increases. Last month, 15-year-old Cassidy Stay moved us with a powerful speech following the slaying of her entire family by Ronald Haskell in Texas. Quoting the famous line by Albus Dumbledore, "Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light," Stay showed resilience beyond what many of us could ever imagine. Now it seems the Harry Potter fan has been given the opportunity most of us would have loved as teenagers, a place in Hogwarts. J.K. Rowling got in touch with the girl in a letter written by Dumbledore, offering her a spot in the famous school along with a wand, a list of school supplies and a signed book. Good on you, JK. That's all from us here at Zip News. I'm Jack Fuller. We'll see you next time.